In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, I greet you with a greeting of peace. Peace that has become such an oxymoron recently that nobody's able to find it anywhere. Consider this to be an official statement that is going to be as a part of a portfolio that is going to include witness statements, victim statements, names and contacts of human rights activists, family advocates and victims advocates as well as other coordinators that are working on this particular case. And this portfolio is going to be directed to the following: to, of course, to Amnesty International, to Human Rights Watch, to the World Organization Against Torture, to Advocates Sans Frontières, to the Institute on Religion and Public Policy, to the Islamic Human Rights Commission, and to the UN Watch as well. So I'll just get right to it. This is basically a statement coming from testimonies of lawyers, of human rights activists, and victims, basically, of what they call Salafiyya al-Jihadiyya in Morocco and the conditions in which they are currently living. I will start first of all by saying, kind of generally speaking, how these people live. Okay, they are all in solitary cells. There is no, they can't socialize, they can't be with each other. They also, in the bitter cold of the jail, they're only allowed 2 paper-thin covers. They have no access to hygiene products. They're only allowed to shower once a week with cold water. There's absolutely no hot water. And in the absence of shampoos and soaps and all of that stuff, and toothpaste and all of that, I don't see how these people can shower or feel clean. They were not allowed to get their clothes that they left back in the previous jail. They don't have any new clothes. They're not allowed shoes. They said they were told that they were going to spend the rest of their time actually in jail with no shoes at all whatsoever. So this is in out, and visits are only 15 minutes behind bars. They were basically transferred to a different jail that is about 4 to 5 hours away from the jail that they were initially in. So families have to travel the distance, sometimes with their kids, for a measly 15 minutes behind bar. Now tell me if that's human. As such, I would like to tell you guys about the recent event that has taken place since the beginning of Ramadan, which was August 1st in 2011. The tradition in Ramadan is basically you fast from sun up to sundown, and then you break your fast, and then you perform extra rituals or extra prayers as a part, because we take advantage of this month and we look at it as a month of self-cleansing and self-assessment, and we basically try to take advantage of it so that we're engaged, heart, body, and soul in the process of purification. Okay, so that involves reading the Quran and reading the Quran a lot, and of the adab, or what we call the rules of reading the Quran, is for it to be read out loud, and especially in Ramadan, it is always read out loud and heard, and it's this atmosphere of Ramadan. This is what makes the atmosphere of Ramadan. So the first night of Ramadan, after breaking the fast, Mr. Abdullah al-Manfa was reading the Quran in his cell out loud. He was one of the privileged people who were able to have a mushaf, which is a small Quran, in their cells. So he was reading it out loud, and his other people or other prisoners were very happy to just hear that voice, and apparently he was reciting it very well, so they were enjoying it and listening to it, and they were all kind of in a state of serenity, basically just submitting to what is before them and just focusing on that. What happened is that somehow this rubbed the jail administration the wrong way. I don't know how. The guards came in and started to yell at him, insult him, and call him names. and tell him to stop reading the Quran out loud. They dragged him out of his cell, and they started to take off their clothes, one article by one article, to nudity. Basically, they rendered him nude. They dragged him out of the cell, and they dragged him around, basically, by the beard. They held him by the beard and started to drag him around while beating him at the same time. Other prisoners were actually looking at all this, and they were like, Allahumma inna hadha munkar, we cannot stand by and let them do this to this innocent person. He's done absolutely nothing. He's basically just reading the Quran. What's so wrong with that? So they started protesting. When they started protesting, those who protested the loudest were also dragged out of their cells, and everybody was beaten in an orgy of utter violence and humiliation. People who were beaten were Yusuf Khudri, Abdul Samad al-Masimi, and Adil al-Faradawi. And what I'm about to read to you guys is basically a testimony of Adil al-Faradawi and actually Yusuf Khudri and Abdul Samad al-Masimi that were taken by their lawyers when they went to visit them. And I'm just going to stop here and tell you the conditions under which the lawyers are allowed to visit their clients. There's absolutely no privacy. First of all, they have to go through the Gendarmerie Royale to basically present their credentials, tell them who they are, who they're here to see, and how long it's going to take. So basically, these people drag their feet and trying to take a log of who's coming and who's going. And then they take them to the gates of the jail. They go through the same process again, and they hold their identification cards until they leave. And lawyers are basically treated very badly, and they have to wait outside no matter how long it takes for these people to kind of, let other people know that someone is here to see such and such. And when they see their clients, attorney-client privilege is non-existent whatsoever, non-existent. They keep on prompting their clients to talk. They keep on asking them questions, but the prisoners are afraid to talk because there's always somebody kind of breathing down their shoulders, so they're afraid to talk. But they were able to get the following statements with basically it was like pulling teeth, literally like pulling teeth. So anyway, after these people were beaten to a bloody pulp, the rector of this particular prison, his name is Ahmed, and they call him the She Camel. This is basically his nickname, ordered all his guards to keep on beating these people, take them to solitary, and if they don't shut up, because they're screaming, because they're being beaten, obviously, and if they don't shut up, and I'm quoting, shove the batons up their rectums. Okay? Let me say that again. Shove the batons up their rectums. Yes, rape them with an object. And without regard to their rights, they have no rights. They're unhuman. They're subhuman. They're worse than animals, because you wouldn't do that to an animal. You wouldn't just grab an animal, shove something down their rectum. Is just unheard of. Anyway, we'll continue talking. We'll continue the statement. Okay, so that was the warden or the director of the prison. Okay, and they took them to solitary for a week, and before they let them out of the solitary, they had them sign a paper that says, "Oh, I will no longer protest on your inhumane treatment of me or anybody else." Okay, and Mr. Adil Faradawi actually identifies one of the people who were beating him, and his name is Haji. So this is what happened in the prison, and that's in prison of Tulal, not in the prison of Salah. These are the conditions under which they live. This is gonna bring us back, Ramadan especially, brings us back to a very painful memory of a prisoner, very, very brave prisoner by the name of Bushta Sharif, who was the whistleblower basically on this whole business of torture, rape, and secret prisons. This was a man that has all my respect, because he came out one day and said, "I am a grown man. I was raped with a bottle. shoved up my rectum to the point that it ruptured and it had to be corrected surgically. And there is a secret prison in Tamara, and it exists in such and such, reference point. And I challenge anybody to go and see it. Of course, the government, there's this whole kind of cover-up operation going on in the government that totally denied the existence of any secret prisons, B, of any torture going on. And if this is not torture, if what these people are going through is not torture, let me read to you what the world decided what torture is going to be. Okay, so torture was defined in the treaty, in the UN Treaty of 1949, as being any act by which severe pain and suffering, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted on a person for such purpose as obtaining from him or a third person information or a confession, punishing him, let's read that one, punishing him for an act he or a third person has committed or suspected of having committed, or intimidating, coercing him or third person, or for any reasons based on discrimination of any kind when such pain and suffering is inflicted by or at the instigation or of or with the consent of acquiescence of a public official or other persons acting as an official capacity. Okay, so this person named Nega, or otherwise the she-camel, ordered his guards to inflict pain on these prisoners. This is in direct violation of what I just read to you. Furthermore, I would like to also inform everybody that, who was very worried about the whereabouts of Bushra Sharif. He has resurfaced and his family knows where he is right now. Praise be to God. Also, Brother Muhammad Hajib, who was also taken to solitary and beaten during Ramadan because they put this huge refrigerator in his room, in his cell, and it was extremely loud, and when he asked them to move it and complained about that, he got a very bad beating. This is the same person who was taken straight from the prison of Salah Zaki for his involvement in the riots that had happened, which still needs to be investigated, by the way, and taken to a undisclosed location where he was beaten. They refused to give him new clothes. They refused him any medical attention. Not just him, everybody else in the prison that I just talked about are refused medical attention. As such, I call upon you to please put pressure on the Moroccan government, because this needs to be investigated. I name in particularly Mr. Ahmed, the warden of the Tulal prison, Mr. Hafid bin Hashim, who is the director of prisons in Morocco, his boss, Tayyib Shirkawi, the Minister of Interior, and the boss of all bosses, Mr. Abbas al-Fasi al-Fihri, who is the Prime Minister of Morocco. We demand that these people be granted the right to live in dignity. Even though they're in jail, they still have dignity and humanity in them, and they should be treated as such. We demand for an immediate investigation, preferably by a third party or a non-profit organization, in the events that have happened. We hope that we are going to see some results soon, and this is a message to the Moroccan government. If you think we are going to sit idly by and let you get away with what you're doing to our brothers and sisters, you are dead wrong. You are mistaken. You will never silence us. We will continue to talk about this until this is resolved. And if it's not resolved, we will hold you responsible before the international community. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.